My name's Sam Perlin. I'm a researcher from the University School of Nashville with a focus on women in the South during the Civil War. Okay, so I'm going to start with someone named Rose O'Neal Greenhow. She was born in 1817 in Maryland and then moved with her aunt to Washington, D.C., which gave her great access to the best politicians, families, and all resources possible. Okay, so Rose O'Neal Greenhow was a Confederate spy in North Carolina, D.C., with knowing so much about military services and politics. She was able to give General Beauregard great information about the Union troop movement, which then gave the Confederates the victory at Bull Run, and Jefferson Davis, President of the Confederacy, actually granted the win in honor of her because of all of her great attributes to the cause. So, in later years, she was followed by Secret Service person Alan Pinkerton, and she was later found and taken to jail where she was actually also with her daughter. But while in jail, she still worked for the Confederacy, sending out great information, even one time through a girl's bun of her hair. So she was still very big in the cause while in jail, when she was later actually released and she moved to Richmond, Virginia.
Hi, my name is Florence. I fought in the Civil War about 40 years ago, and I'm going to tell you about my experiences and what I learned. On the military side of things, many women joined volunteer brigades, and it was the first time women actually had a significant effect on the war effort. It changed completely America's views of womanhood, and over 20,000 women actually helped to help the war.
Hello, I'm Dorothy Baker, and I'm here to talk about the sanitation aspect of the war. In 1861, the United States Sanitary Commission was founded, right as the Civil War began. It was made to promote healthy conditions in the Union Army camps. The commission staffed field hospitals, raised money, provided supplies, and worked to educate the military and government on matters of health and sanitation. Women volunteered for work on or with the commission.
My name is Harriet Tubman, a former slave who led 300 people to freedom as a conductor on the Underground Railroad. I was also a Union spy. I volunteered for the Union as a cook and nurse before being recruited to establish a network of spies in South Carolina made up of former slaves. I also became the first woman in the country's history to lead a military expedition when I helped Colonel James Montgomery plan a night raid to free slaves from rice plantations along the Combahee River. I, along with hundreds of free slaves, destroyed a Confederate supply depot and freed more than 750 others.
Sally Louisa Tompkins, she was a huge part of the Confederacy with the medical part. She noticed how much aid was needed during the Battle of Bull Run, so in Richmond, Virginia, she actually opened a private facility where they could take care of men, where in this small facility, they actually took care of over 1,300 people before being discharged in June of 1865.
Well, the main effect women had was medical. They also organized women's aid societies to help provide things for the troops like food, clothing, money, and other things. Some women took a more active approach, like me. It's estimated about 400 of us disguised ourselves as men and fought in the war. Over 80% of us died. But I was a survivor.
Many women volunteered for work on or with the commission. Some women provided direct service at hospitals and camps, organized medical services, or acted as nurses. Other women raised money and managed the organization. After the war, women who held these jobs in the commission were able to work at many places that previously did not allow women workers. But due to their experience in the war, the Sanitary Commission, they were allowed in. Another organization many women were a part of during the war was the United States Christian Commission. Their objective was to promote the moral care of soldiers. The USCC provided nursing care, food, religious books, and Bibles to the soldiers. The USCC also gave soldiers writing materials and postage stamps and encouraged soldiers to send their pay home. The Christian Commission was estimated to have raised about $6.25 million in money and supplies for the war effort. The South did not have an official sanitary commission, but women did send supplies to the troops. The differences in the death rates in the camps and the ultimate success of the military was greatly influenced by the presence in the North. and not in the South, of an organized sanitary commission.
The civilian women, in terms of women at home, before the Civil War, women were basically confined to the domestic sphere, but the Civil War completely challenged traditional ideology of women's behavior. In both the North and the South, women had to take on public jobs they had never been forced to before. While men were fighting away at war, women were left in charge of houses and children and new jobs. The war completely expanded America's views of women's proper place in society.
Belle Boyd was another one of the most famous Confederate spies. Belle Boyd was born to a prominent slaveholding family in Virginia. She used her looks and charms to get information from Union officers to the Confederacy. Rosa Neal Greenhow was another Confederate spy. She was in the social elite in Washington and used her powerful social connections beginning in 1861 to spy for the Confederacy. Greenhow obtained information about Union military activity and passed coded messages. One of her most important messages, hidden in her female courier's hair, helped General Beauregard gather enough forces to win the First Battle of Bull Run.
So the final person is actually a slave. Her name is Selina Norris Gray. She was a second-generation slave, and she actually lived in the Robert E. Lee household. She and Mrs. Lee became very close through their time in the house. And when it actually became time for her to be married, her and her husband actually were married inside of the house by an Episcopal minister that Robert E. Lee requested to have at the service. They're actually married in the same exact room that Robert E. Lee and Mrs. Lee were married in. When it came time for Robert E. Lee to leave the house for battle and the rest of the family, it was left to Selina to lead the house. They were given the keys and told to watch over everything in the house. She even helped them move very special items from the house to safety during this time. When the Union troops came to the house after they had left, she told the troops to stay away from everything that belonged to Mrs. Lee, and luckily she was able to keep most things unharmed. She was known as one of the first preservationists because of this and keeping some of the great artifacts found in the Lee household, which is now actually Arlington Cemetery.
We tried for years, and finally the government reluctantly agreed. They let us help treat wounded soldiers on the home front of the battles. Via the Sanitary Commission, we provided estimated almost $15 million worth of supplies and medical assistance to troops. While I was a free woman, enslaved women served as cooks, matrons, and suppliers for other miscellaneous activities.
In Confederate Nashville, I got information about operations and Confederate spies before I was arrested. I was sentenced to hang, but was saved by the arrival of Union forces.
Aside from me, Florence, some other famous Civil War women were women like Dr. Mary Walker, a famous physician, and Emma Edmonds, who served under an alias Franklin Thompson and fought in the war and was one of the leading fighters, despite no one knowing she was actually a woman.
Don't worry, man. I got you.